Sunday, April 12th. Passover is filled with moments of memory. Singing Dayenu, asking the 4 questions, opening the door for Elijah. These are not just rituals, they are rehearsals of identity. They're the ways we remember not only what happened to our ancestors, but who we are because of that which happened. And regardless of how long or how short our seders may be, we almost always include one enduring section of the Haggadah. And Rabbi Heath mentioned this last week, the 4 children. Originally written as the 4 sons, the Chacham, the wise, the Rasha, the evil or rebellious, the Tam, the simple, and She'eno Yodea Lishol, the one who does not know how to ask. These figures have evolved over time. Today we speak of the 4 children. Some speak of the 4 daughters. In the Haggadah that I wrote, I chose to call them the discerning one, the rebellious one, the impressionable one, and the one who does not yet know how to ask. But whatever we call them, the question remains, why do they matter so much that almost every Haggadah you look at includes them in some way, shape, or form? Because they are not just characters. They are mirrors. We recognize them immediately. The wise one is the engaged learner, the careful listener, the one who wants to get it right, the OCD person. The rebellious one is the challenger, the skeptic, the one who pushes away and asks, what does this have to do with me? It's the one who kind of sticks it to you. The simple one, overwhelmed by complexity, in need of clarity and story rather than elaborate systems. And the one who does not know how to ask is the one who stands at the very edge of our tradition, unsure of even where to begin. And our tradition does something remarkable. It does not silence or exclude any of them. Instead, it commands us, respond to each one. No, not with the exact same answer, but with the answer they individually need. Because the goal of the Seder is not and never has been uniformity. It is relationship. It is transmission. It is connection. And it's not just the Seder, but it's Passover as a whole. A couple of years ago, on one of my regular trips to Israel, I spent some time with a friend. His name is Roni Netzer. Roni is both a typical and atypical Israeli. He was born in Sweden, now lives in Israel, a tour guide who often works with Christian groups. He's politically moderate and culturally very complex. We were talking about Passover, about Seder specifically, and how to engage the people around our tables. And he offered an idea that stayed with me. He said that we are all the 4 children. Now, that's not an entirely new idea. Jewish tradition has long suggested that each of us contains all 4 voices, that at different moments in our life, different children emerge. But Roni took it a bit further. He said, I am from Sweden. My wife is from Morocco. Our children were born in Israel. My mother came from Russia. My wife's parents came from Tunisia and Egypt. When we sit around the Seder table, the 4 children are not just personalities. They are our histories. They are our origins. They are our people. And then he added something even more powerful. All of us are needed at the table. For even if one of us were missing, the story would be incomplete. There would be no full telling. There would be literally no Haggadah. And that idea stayed with me because it reframes what we think about when we think about Passover and specifically about the Seder. The 4 children are not just about temperament. They are about peoplehood. They're about the truth that Judaism has never been one voice, that one story or one way of being. Rather, we are a tapestry of differences, and that our differences are not problems to solve. Rather, it is the story that we are meant to tell. On that same trip when I was in Israel, I attended a funeral of a friend of a friend. The man being eulogized was described as a chacham, a wise person. It struck me not just because of the language of the four children, but because of how easily we assign these categories to individuals. We look at someone and we say, that's who they are. But is that really ever true? Not long ago, after that trip, 2 years ago, during my mother's final illness, I found myself sitting with my three sisters, the four of us together again, after years of living in different places, leading very, very different lives. And in those 2 weeks, we spent more time together as siblings than we had really in years. At one point, we began reminiscing, and it led to our childhood seders. And perhaps because I'm one of 4 children, I've always had this particular connection, that part of the Haggadah, and it got me thinking as I'm sitting there talking with my sisters. I thought about Roni, I thought about the funeral, and I looked at my sisters, and I wondered, which one of us was which child? Which one of us was the wise one? Which one of the 4 of us was the rebellious one? Who was the simple one, and who was the one who didn't even know how to ask? Well, the answer, of course, as I said at the beginning, was all of us. At different moments, and sometimes even in the same conversation, we move between these different identities. Because that is the deeper truth. Each of us, every one of us, holds wisdom. Every one of us, admit it to yourself, has rebelled. Every one of us has at times in need of simplicity. And each of us has at times stood silent, unsure what to ask or even how to begin. And more than that, none of us is complete on our own. Just as Roni suggested about his family, it is only when we are together, bringing our different stories, our different questions, our different ways of being, that something whole, something special begins to emerge. That is what a Seder and Passover means to me. That is what our observance is meant to be. It's not a performance of perfection. It's not a polished recitation of text. It's not even a meticulous adherence to every single piece of our food prohibitions. But instead, a Seder, the experience of Jews throughout the world somehow observing Passover, it is a gathering of souls. That was the power and beauty of our community Seder last night. It was a bit chaotic for those of you who were there. It wasn't particularly elegant or quiet or perfectly ordered, but it was real because everyone was there. And when we make space for one another, when we truly see each other, when we listen to each other, when we invite each other into the conversation, we create something sacred. We become, in a very real sense, a living Haggadah. The Haggadah tells us, in every generation, each person must see themselves as if they themselves went out from Mitzrayim, the Hebrew word for Egypt. Perhaps we can read this, though, a bit differently. Perhaps it should read as, in every generation, each person must see themselves and each other as part of the story. because none of us leaves Egypt alone. We carry each other out through our questions, through our disagreements, through our memories, through our presence. Each year when we sit at the Seder table and we encounter the 4 children, it is not just a lesson in pedagogy. It's a call to responsibility. A reminder that our task is to make sure that everyone has a place at the table. Everyone, not just the agreeable ones, but also the questioning ones, the distant ones, the uncertain ones, the ones who don't even know how to ask. Because they are not outside the story, none of them. They are the story, and so are we. If we can hold one another in that way, if we can truly welcome each voice, each perspective, each fragment of experience, then something extraordinary happens. We stop merely retelling the story of our people, and we begin to live it. As Roni said, we become a living Haggadah, telling a story not only of the past, but of the present and of the future. A story of love and learning, of fear and faith, of helplessness and hope, of darkness and light, of despair and of joy. All of it, all of us, at the same table. Shabbat Shalom. And as a PS, as you leave tonight, I'm going to ask that you all take 2 minutes, walk through our lobby into the social hall, and then turn around and look at our picture of all of us leaving Mitzrayim. You'll see all of us drew our own images, and we put them in the journey. Imagine yourself on that journey and figure out where you fall in our story. Shabbat Shalom. Now, I invite all of us to rise as able.